Welcome, everybody. This is Carlita, and I'm excited. Let me get the live going. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm excited to be here with all of you on our Saturday morning book club call. As always, I'm excited for our time together, and super excited today that we get to have Dr. Tom Barrett live with us. And I wish we could have him live every Saturday because we have a lot more people on this call. And you guys, what I would say to that is he talks to us every Saturday. I mean, this book that we go through, anytime you sit down with a book, the way I look at it is that I'm sitting down across the table from the author, and they're imparting their wisdom into me and sharing with me what it is I need to know to become the best version of myself so that I can build a business that is equivalent to the growth that I'm having. He says in here and in this chapter, we won't grow a business bigger than you grow yourself and your self-belief. And so this is why this call every Saturday is my favorite call. And yet I feel like it's one of the ones that people feel like they can dismiss if they have to pick and choose. And yet it's probably the one that's going to make the biggest difference, because what we do in this business is simple. What we do on this book club call is the hard work. We grow us. We change our mindset. We grow our mindset. We build skill set with things that you're not going to learn out there in the regular marketplace. And so Beth Gallardi, I think you're the host. So if you can make me the host, that would be great. It gets a little wonky whenever we do our calls on Wednesdays. If you're listening, you can do that for me. So, but you guys, I want to go ahead and introduce Dr. Barrett. He said to go ahead and introduce him before he gets on so he could just get in here, jump in and talk. He's joining us, you guys, from the baseball game. And I'm going to mute everybody now. He's joining us from his kids' baseball game. I love and respect this man, not only as a business coach, a leader, guru, network marketing expert, a man of God, but he loves his family and has built his business in his book or his business that he has around his family. I mean, his daughters were his assistants and stuff, and he builds a family business like we build in Arbonne. And he was sharing with me yesterday, he now has 5 grandkids, and him and his wife are spending their time on weekends going and watching their kids do their activities. And this morning it's a baseball game. And so he's going to be joining us from the baseball field. And he's going to be joining us from the phone. So he won't be, showing his face live. So you guys on Facebook Live will have to either join us on Zoom or just listen. The audio should come across fine through the computer. So he is, you guys, he's so humble in his introductory, you guys. But if you want to read the back of his book, it tells you all of his accolades. He holds 2 master's degrees and a PhD in psychology, which is what I love about him, because he gets in the brain because the brain and the mind is what keeps us either propelling ourselves and our businesses forward or holding us back. And that's what makes him such a powerful teacher in our business and for life. But he, you guys, a fun fact about him, the very first Arbonne event that he ever spoke at was at Sherry Nickel, one of our national vice presidents, car presentation when she went RVP. And I remember Sherry asking me if I thought Tom Barrett would come and speak at her presentation. And we were like, well, we don't know unless we ask. And we did. And then he became, a favorite of Arbonne after that, because the exposure just kept, his reputation started to precede him. So he's gotten to do a lot of work with Arbonne and has spoken at GTC from main stage, and has just been loved, respected, and adored by our company and our consultants for years. So he just said basically what he wants us to know about him is that he loves Arbonne and everything about Arbonne. And that is the most important thing we need to know about him. And he's excited to share with us what we can do. So I am going to see, let me see, I need to see what number. Dr. Barrett, if you can text me what number you're on, then I'll know which number to unmute. I think it might be But if you'll text me, I have my phone on a live, so it's harder for me to text, but I'll see a text if you do it, or you can unmute and start speaking. But I'm super excited to have him on live with us, and don't want to take up any more of his time. So I'm going to let him get started if he is ready to go. Yep. Okay. I'm going to unmute you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I just wanted to make sure.
Ah, good.
I'm used to seeing.
All right. Well, we've done the hardest part, and that's to get the technology to work.
Amen. There you go. Good.
All right. And I heard your brief introduction and what I wanted you to say, which is exactly right. All you need to know, for those of you on the call, is that I have deep regard for Arbonne, the culture, the history, the products, the people, the values, the vision, the importance. I could go on, but just let me say, I'm in your camp. I am a believer. But as we get started, two quick things. Number one, for everyone on the call, I respect you and I thank you. Let's be honest. It's a Saturday morning, depending on where you are in the country. But, you know, we all have 5 other things we could do, want to do, or need to do this morning. But here you are. And for that, I respect you. Secondly, it's obvious that some moments of celebration for what a great month the entire Carlita team has had. What a great moment for me to be on the call with you. So congratulations to all of you. One of the things I wish you could hear is the prep call that Carlita and I had yesterday, because what you would have heard, if you could just put your phone on mute and listen in, is not pride in what's happened in her world. It's pride in you, love for you, passion for you, high regard for you, appreciation for you. And I thought, what a privilege it is to be on a call with you that are listening in, and for Carlita that has set this whole thing up. So I am grateful for this time. I honor all of you. And serendipitously, we are in chapter 6 of Dare to Dream. Now, I'm going to do something with you that I have never done before on a call like this. I'm actually going to refer to the book. I'm even going to read a couple of things from the book. So as you're on the call, I have a couple of things. Number one, I'm assuming maybe you have read the chapter, and it's fine if you haven't. And I certainly know what it is to go into meetings not quite as prepared as I thought I might be, because life got in the way. And I'm not going to call on you. So this is not like a teacher asking, you know, hey, Sally, did you do your homework? It's all good. I'm just glad that you're here. But I will tell you where I am in it. And I want you to follow along occasionally on the book. And I cannot think of a more exciting chapter for me to be able to share with you as a shrink. As a guy that has spent much of his adult life having the privilege of being invited into the interior space of other people's minds. The great privilege I have in my life is to be trusted by people privately, such that they share things with me that they're barely able to share with themselves. And so I get excited about the content and what we're looking at here. And so as we get started, a couple of things, and I hope you're taking notes. Some of them I recommend you take in your book, and others, if you want, just type away on your computer and capture whatever you want. But relative to the book, the first thing we need to acknowledge is, you know what? 2 things, the title of this chapter and the 2 pull quotes. The title, obviously self-evident, the last stronghold of doubt, the self. Now, gang, for us here on this call, we encounter this 2 different ways, either self-doubt in our own lives, which we all deal with. It's just a question of how frequently. It's a question of what degree, and it's a question of in what area. But we all deal with it. That's just called being normal. Nothing wrong with that. But the other thing you need to understand in growing your business is people that you bring into your organization are also dealing with it. Now, there's 2 things that happen with that. You know, in life, leadership is the privilege of changing the storyline of someone else's life. Leadership is the privilege of changing the storyline of someone else's life. That's the privilege you have in are bond. But the other truth is there are some people who cannot allow their storylines to be changed. They are stuck in their self-doubts. So as we're on this call, I mostly want to focus just on us. Hey, how am I doing with my own self-belief? But be aware, this is a rich chapter for you in terms of mentoring others. And it's also a very important chapter. You know, when people leave your business, many of them are not going to tell you the real reason. My wife and I are going to Denali. We're going to spend several weeks in Alaska this summer. And so I'm reading up on it a lot. We're excited. I'm stoked. But one of the things that I've read is Mishner's book on Alaska. And what the part that fascinates me, there are so many, but there are many people that went to Alaska seeking a new life, new freedom, new opportunities. But what happened is they couldn't make the adjustment. And they went home and they were called the go-backers. You know, in our industry, we have a lot of people that are go-backers. And they're go-backers because they weren't well prepared for what they were about to encounter. But what they don't acknowledge is I was a go-backer because I wasn't mentally clear enough and confident enough to keep moving forward. We don't want that to be any of us on the call. We just celebrate that if, yeah, that happens for people. So a couple things as we get started. The title of the chapter, The Last Stronghold of Doubt. The first pull quote, our core beliefs are the epicenter from which our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions flow. And that, my friends, is the heart of the chapter. The second one is the pull quote that you see on page 94. Either you will learn to capture your thoughts or your thoughts will capture you. It is the title and these two quotes that are so paramount in determining the outcomes of our lives. And that's what we want to pay attention to. So this is where I say it's such a privilege to have this time. Be aware, one of the paradoxes of life is this. You live your life in your head. You see, we live our lives in the interior part of our cranium, on our brain and in our minds, and nobody else can really understand what's happening there. And our challenges, our privileges, is to learn how this thing called our brain and our mind work. Our challenge and our privileges is to accept responsibility to make sure that our mind is working for us, not against us. Our challenge is to understand that your mind, my mind, they are ground zero for what happens in your life. Just a couple of weeks ago, I happened to be in the naval shipyards in Mobile, Alabama, where I was working on a very, very large contract in the defense world. And with $20 billion on the table, you want to get it right. So they brought me in to help the team get ready for their presentations and analytics. But I got a private tour of one of the Navy vessels. Now, of all the things that were most important to me was being invited into the command and control room of this ship. When they're in combat, the command and control room. And I thought, what a privilege to see this spot. This is where it all happens. Well, that's exactly what your brain is. It is command and control center for your life. And we want to pay attention to the fact that when we manage it well, it does several things. First, it increases our perspective. It increases our patience. It increases our restraint. And it increases our resilience. A mind that is well managed is able to think clearly, calmly, and accurately. Now, on the flip side, by the way, a mind that is stressed, and we all know what it is to have a brain, which is incidentally, it's an organ. It's an organ. It's a muscle. If it's not really a muscle, but as an analogy, our bodies need rest. And it's easy for us to forget that our minds as an organ truly need rest. It also needs nutrition and hydration. But for our lifestyle today, many people are living with a tired brain. And when our minds are tired and overtaxed and overstressed, what begins to happen? We all know because we've all experienced it. Our reactions get shorter. Our restraint becomes more difficult. and our response to external stimuli in our world becomes more intense, not necessarily more appropriate, not necessarily more accurate, but more intense. And that's why it's really good for us to go, I want to pay attention to this thing called mind management, because I love what the English poet John Milton wrote when he said, the mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. It's all based on what are the thoughts screaming across the screen of our own mind. So what I would like to do is just read real quickly from page 88. And by the way, can you still hear me okay, Carlene? Does that sound good?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
You're good?
Yes.
All right, good. All right. All right, because you sound funky to me, and so I'm trying to figure out, are we breaking up or not? But it's all right?
I'm sorry. Yes, we're good. We're good. Can you hear me okay?
All right. I can hear you now, yeah. All right, good. All right. So I'm going to just read, forgive me, I've never done it, but it's kind of fun. All right, page 88 in the book. Follow along with me. What matters most? It does not matter how much intellectual confidence someone has about network marketing becoming a primary means of transacting business. It doesn't matter how much conviction they have about a particular network marketing company. And it doesn't matter how passionate they are about the compensation potential, the quality of the products, or the services provided. If their belief about themselves, here we go, gang, is full of self-doubt and negativity, then this belief system will outrank and overshadow all of their confidence, conviction, and passion. In fact, it will prevent many from ever getting started in network marketing. Would you please circle in that passage we just read, will outrank and overshadow? Now, one of the things as a sidebar assignment I would love for you to do is to make a list of 15 things that are true and positive that you know and believe about Arbonne. Just make a list of 15 facts, data points that you know are absolutely true. Because every now and then we just need time to think and go, you know, what am I doing here? Particularly when you're on the front end of your business, or neighbors or friends or spouse or somebody is asking, is that thing getting any traction yet? And you don't know what to say to them. Now, I would love to help you with that, but that's not our purpose today. But what you do need to have happen internally in your own mind is where you begin to go, I have absolutely no doubt about the efficacy, the power, the veracity of what this company is about and the impact it can have in multiple areas. And there's so much behind that last sentence in multiple areas, but I'm just going to let it lie. All right. But for our purposes, I would love for you, this is an assignment for you. You write down sometime before this weekend is out, 15 things that you know are true and positive about your beliefs regarding Arbonne, and then keep them line of sight. But for our purposes now, what we're saying is, in spite of knowing all these things, and you do need to know them, they do need to be truths that you anchor to when the business isn't going as easily as you wish it would. But what we really want to say, but against all of those, our personal core beliefs of self-doubt will outrank and overshadow the greatest facts in the world. At that moment, the fallacy of our beliefs about ourselves trumps over the truth about Arbonne. And that's why we love to have time to think about this. And then the only other section I want to read at length is the following couple of paragraphs. Hang with me, all right? Because they matter in your life and in the lives of those that you are trying to shape. So we started one, some won't even get started, but what about those who get started and then they just run out of steam? Well, this is your chapter right here, this paragraph, 88, last paragraph on the bottom. Others will get started, but the weight of their self-doubt will keep slowing them down. For them, it is like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. They recognize that network marketing is a vehicle that could literally change their lives and financial future, but the constant drag of self-doubt prevents them from driving their business with abandon. Now, here's what I want you to write in the margin of your book. I want you to write, it's time for me to release the brake. It's time for me to release the brake of self-doubt. It's time for me to let my business begin to go, flow, and fly. Now, we're going to read on again. All right, top of page 89. They want to go forward. They believe in the business. They see its potential, and they honestly intend to stick with it. Eventually, however, the fatigue of carrying their negative belief systems into their business exhausts them. So they slow down, they stop pushing, they rest, and immediately the relief of rest feels much easier than the fight to carry this ever-present weight of self-doubt. So they park their vehicles of opportunity. They disqualify themselves from the race of life, and they settle for being a spectator. And then drop down to the bottom of the next paragraph, and then I'm going to stop, and that is this. Paradoxically, they become confident in their beliefs that they have no right to live life with confidence. They are more certain than ever that they are not entitled, qualified, or likely to ever be a winner in life. So instead of living life with abandon, they begin to abandon life. Now, here's what I want you to write as a question in the margins of your book. Where am I in this cycle? Where am I? And every now and then, we just need to take time to literally eavesdrop on our own mind and do some self-assessment tips of what in the world do I believe? And every now and then, we just need to ask ourselves, what are the belief systems that are driving the bus in my life? Now, another thing, and by the way, let me double check again. Carlita, you can still hear me, right?
Yes, sir, we can. Yes.
All right, I saw a text or something coming in, and I'm thinking, am I just sitting here alone talking to myself? All right, good. I have no interest in talking to myself. Okay. All right, here's another suggestion I have for you, my friends, and I'm so sorry that we don't have a full day to deal with this stuff. Another thing I want you to encourage thinking about in terms of how do I keep my mindset clear, clean, accurate, positive, and my brain rested. You need to make sure, all of us need to rediscover how to create margins in our lives, particularly in our mind. Now, there's some fascinating research going on between Harvard University and University of Virginia, where they're doing combined research, and the stunning result is that Americans do not like time alone with themselves. Now think about this. Americans do not like time alone with themselves. They do not like margins in the privacy of their own mind. That is why when you sit down, you instinctively go to your handheld. If you're in an elevator with 4 other people, what do we all reflexively do now? Rather than say good morning, nod, smile, we immediately pick up our handheld. Oh gosh, let me check my investment portfolio or see if I have any, text, emails, anything, but let me do something. We have become increasingly unfamiliar and uncomfortable with stillness. And it comes at a cost. By the way, as an author, whenever I pick up any book, the first thing I do, even as you look at page 90 or 91 in my book, I look for margins. It's called white space. Is the book balanced? Is it laid out in a way that's not visually overwhelming to the reader? Well, white space and margins, just like they matter in a book, they matter profoundly in your mind. And many of us need to create more margins in our mind. And as we give ourselves time just to chill, to be still, one of the things that we want to pay attention to that's touched on in this is when you give your mind permission to just breathe. That's when you actually discover the state of your wellness or things that matter to you and your core values and your spirit and your heart. But this only comes when we give ourselves the privilege of time to just chill. And I get it, gang, we're all busy. And I have no doubt that I've got dear women and maybe a number of men on this call, and you're like, hey, we're as busy as we can be. The idea of a margin, time to think, is a joke. Are you kidding me, Barrett? And I'm saying, no, I'm not kidding you. I understand how hard it is. I understand that it's become increasingly uncomfortable for people, but I'm serious that you need pockets of time just for you, just for your brain to chill. And that's why I said that in the book, I talk about when you chill, I want you to begin to pay attention to what are some of the thoughts floating across the screen of your mind. No one else can see them because you live in your head. That's private space. That's a private domain. So you need to be the one responsible and say, I want to begin to pay attention to the thoughts zooming across the screen of my mind. And so like an airplane at the beach towing a sign that says, hey, eat at Larry's Steakhouse. What do? We look at that the first time and then we begin to ignore it. I want you to stop ignoring the thoughts floating across the screen of your mind. Because here's some fascinating facts that I find interesting, at least as a shrink. On average, people have 60,000 thoughts per day. That's 1 per second during your waking hours. 95% of the thoughts you have today are the same thoughts that you had yesterday and the day before. Now, here's the kicker. For the average person, 80% of those habitual thoughts are negative. That means the course of the waking hours during one day, there are 45,000 thoughts screaming across the screen of your mind that you may not even notice. And I love what Dr. Daniel Amen, the brilliant psychiatrist and brain imaging specialist, calls us. He says all of us live with ANTs, A-N-T, automatic negative thoughts. But what we want to do is begin to pay attention to our thoughts. It has been said that, thoughts are like interesting pieces of material. Velcro, our brains are Velcro for negativity and Teflon for positivity. Our brains do have, for whatever weird reasons, a negativity bias. And what we want to do is say, I want to learn to manage my mind. I want to upgrade the software of my mind because I want to live with a mind where it is not controlling me, but I am learning to control it. And as I do that, what I want to pay attention to is what thoughts am I going to give permission to keep floating across the screen of my mind. And that is the privilege of what we have in the world of Arbonne. It's being surrounded by teams of people who are like-minded and say, you know what, we want to win this battle as an organization, as a team. We literally want to win this battle of overcoming self-doubt or negativity, overcoming negativity from the world or negativity towards what you're endeavoring to do as an entrepreneur in the world of Arbonne. We want to win this battle. And so here's the last thing I want you to do. At the end of the chapter, as you know, and this is worthy of so much more time, but on page 98, it says you got to be mentally tough. Now, if you're going to succeed in life in general, professionally, socially, personally, privately, one of the things that you and I need to develop is mental toughness, not just mental clarity, but mental toughness. In our last presidential election, I spent 5 days up in New Hampshire on the campaign bus with one of the presidential candidates. His name is John Kasich. You may or may not be familiar with him, and I don't give a hoot for our purposes here where you stand politically. But what was interesting in spending 5 days on the bus, touring New Hampshire while he's doing multiple presentations, we're talking, 5, 10 presentations and interviews a day, one-on-ones, answering Q&A. In the course of that 5 weeks, I saw this guy laughed at, let down, lied to, and lied about. And you know what? He never lost hope, never became bitter, never became discouraged. That's mental toughness and mental clarity. And what we want to pay attention to is, you know what? I want to make sure that I protect my dreams. I want to make sure that my dreams and my courage and my motivation is being tended to. I want to tend to my mind. So here's the last thing I have for you. And it's all on page 101, gang. This is your last assignment, all right? And it is this. On page 101, you will see in the first full paragraph that begins, for some people, This is the time to stop selling themselves so cheaply. 12 times in this section, I use generic language, and it is second and third person. I want you to rewrite this first person. And here's what I mean. Your next assignment, should you choose to accept it, as they say in the old Mission Impossible, is this. It's to write this in first person singular. So you now say, for some people, this is the time for me to stop selling myself cheaply. It is time for me to stop viewing myself as a $3 base. It is time for me to stop being constrained by my own limited thinking. Every one of these, you take the time to write it in first person singular, because you know what, my friends? It is time for you to stop letting doubt about yourself put a stronghold on your dreams, your life, your vision, and your freedom. Enjoy the day. Enjoy this amazing company. Enjoy this amazing team that you have the privilege of being on with this amazing woman who cares so deeply about you. And spend today, and I hope the rest of the weekend, not just capturing your thoughts, but having thoughts about yourself that are thoughts of truth and kindness and graciousness. Thoughts where you give yourself permission to laugh at your failure. Thoughts where you give yourself permission to have a lot to learn about leadership and thought as an entrepreneur and growing a business. Thoughts where you literally get to the place where it's okay for you to fail, because we call that human and normal. And thoughts where you give yourself permission to start afresh. And with that, my friends, I got a baseball game I need to get to so I can watch my grandson. Carlita, can I thank you and turn it back over to you, my friend?
You certainly can, Dr. Barrett. And I know that this was not by chance that this was the chapter that we were on. So I am so excited.
I agree.
To see what God's
all right.
You enjoy your family and tell them thank you from us for sharing you with us in this
I will, and you are almost welcome. It's an honor to be with each of you. Bye, everybody.
Love you. Bye-bye. You guys, I would say